Hi, my name's Kim. I'm an introvert that travels the world whilst being on a tight budget. Following the video that I released last week, the week before, basically first time travelling, how to actually travel, so going through the steps of travelling from booking to being at the airport, I thought it would be good to make another video on the basics of travel, but telling you the different ways that you can go about travelling. So the different modes of travel there are, maybe sort of ways that you hadn't thought of travelling before. I'm going to cover as much of that as I can in this video. Airline travel tends to be the most popular choice when it comes to travelling, but I'm going to talk to you about 9 ways that you can travel that you may not have thought of, which might be the best way that you can take your next trip. The first way I'm going to talk about is city breaks. The popularity of city breaks has come about because of cheap airlines being able to get you places at a low cost. So you can go away over a weekend or a few days. You don't have to take that many days off work and it won't break the budget. I've done a couple of these sort of like city breaks. One of them was going to Venice, where I only spent £100, and I also went to Madrid, where I spent £150. And both these trips, bear in mind, that included air travel, accommodation, transfers, food for all the time I was there, like everything. So you can do these city breaks really cheap on a right tight budget. It also gives you a taste of a city, so rather than having to dedicate 1 or 2 weeks to a place that you might not necessarily like, it means that you can just go have a flavour of a place, see if it's somewhere you'd like to travel for a little bit longer. For example, I spoke about Venice and Madrid just now. Venice, loved the place, absolutely adored it. I only stayed there for 2 nights, but I swear I could have spent like a lifetime there. I love Venice so much. Whereas with Madrid, still nice city, lovely, you know, it's fine. In my mind, I saw as much of it as I wanted to see in those 2 nights that I stayed there. So as much as I'd like to explore more of Spain, I don't necessarily feel an urge to go back to Madrid. So it means that rather than having have gone to Madrid for like 7 days or 14 days, I just went there for the 2 nights, and that satisfied me, which was, it's good. You know, you save money on not going to somewhere that you're not necessarily going to be excited to be there for a longer time, I guess. Obviously we need to bear in mind the sort of the bad side of all this travel that we do and all these little city breaks will be the environmental aspect of it, and the fact that we're going to be putting more carbon dioxide into the air from the extra travel that we are doing from these short trips. So bear that in mind when you do these little city breaks. Package holidays. The majority of people, I guess, book their holidays using package holidays or using sort of package travel agents. The good thing about booking a package holiday is that everything tends to be included. So your accommodation, your travel, your transfers, usually all that is together. Also, by booking it as a package, you usually get ATOL protected, which means that if the company does go bust whilst you're abroad, they'll repatriate you back home. If you do decide to book everything separately, just make sure that you've got travel insurance to cover that. I talk more about travel insurance and the importance of it in my video where I did the sort of beginner's guide, so I'll put an iCard up. Whichever side the iCard comes, it's there. So if you want to know more about that, go check that video out. Another option for being protected if you are going to book everything separately is using a credit card. Again, same video, same information, it's all in that video for you. When I travel to Greece, I like booking it as a package holiday, so using a travel agent, because it has that extra level of protection and it is a bit of an expensive holiday. Whereas when I do my cheap city breaks, as long as I'm happy that my travel insurance covers me in the, you know, bad eventualities, I'm usually pretty happy to just sort of like go with the flow. Coach holidays. The good thing about coach holidays is if you're more worried about the environmental impact of your holiday, coach holidays or travelling by coach per person emits less carbon dioxide. So if that's something that you're worried about, the carbon footprint of your trip will be less. Another good thing is basically coach holidays. I like travelling using a package holiday, but you can be even lazier, I guess. Usually with a package holiday, you've got to get yourself to the airport and travel carrying all your own luggage, and you know, go through all the steps carrying your luggage. You get picked up at the airport on the other side and then taken to your hotel, but essentially you're doing everything yourself, carrying all your own luggage. But with a coach holiday, or all the ones that I've been on anyway, you turn up to your bus stop, which in my case, my closest bus stop for coach holidays is only 10 minutes away from my house. You give them your suitcase, they put them underneath the coach, and then you get on the coach, and then that's it. And then you get off the coach and essentially you're there, and you haven't had to lug your luggage everywhere, and you know, there's no sort of like, how do I get to the airport and I've got to be there 3 hours before the flight. There's none of that. You turn up at the bus stop and they pick you up, and then that's it. It's perfect if you're lazy and you like going on lazy holidays. Coach holidays are also really good if you're a single traveller, so you're travelling alone, because you're more likely to meet someone that you can befriend on a coach holiday than you are a standard holiday. You're not odds of getting on a plane and meeting somebody that is going to the same place as you and sort of being able to sort of buddy up on a trip is quite low. Whereas if you're on a coach holiday, that's what's happening. You're going to the same place. I went to Norway on a coach holiday years ago, and I sort of like made friends, I guess, with some of the people who were on the coach, and we sort of buddied up and went places together. You know, it's nice if you like that sort of thing. If you want any further information about coach holidays and how they might be the best way to travel for you, again, I'm going to stick a little iCard, whichever side they come up. It's going to take you to a video that I released a couple of weeks ago explaining the benefits of coach travel and how it might actually be the best way to go on holiday. Solo travel. I spoke about the benefits of traveling alone if you're going on a coach holiday, but you can travel alone on any mode of transport. Just take precautions, make sure you're safe, that's all. Back when I did my gap year when I was 19, I travelled alone a lot. I went to France, Belgium, Holland, Norway, USA by myself, and just bear in mind, keep yourself safe, but as long as you do the research of the places that you're going before you go, you should be fine. There are some countries, obviously, don't travel alone to, they're too dangerous, but like I said, as long as you do your research beforehand, you know, be wise. You should be fine travelling by yourself. Sometimes you can be your own best travel companion. You're not having to negotiate with a group of other people, like when you want to go places or what restaurant to go to. You literally go, oh, do you know what? It's 10 AM and I fancy some churros. I'm going to go get some. Or it's 11 PM and I fancy going for a walk on the beach. And you can, because no one there to stop you from doing it, apart from, you know, take precautions. But you don't have to like negotiate with people. Like, you're vegetarian and you're going on a holiday with a meat eater and they want to go somewhere that doesn't really have many meat options, but they don't want to go to a vegetarian place. And yeah, sometimes traveling alone is nice because you can just do whatever you want. Interrailing. Essentially what interrailing is travelling by train through Europe. There's a little bit more to it than that, but there are two different types of pass that you can get. There's the Interrail one, or the EU Rail Pass, depending on where you live. And you can travel through 33 participating countries for a certain time period. So depending on how long you buy the pass for, you can travel through that country or through the area for. Because of the flexibility of the passes, this might be a good way of seeing quite a few places in quite a short amount of time, but bear in mind there are some restrictions on it and you might have to pay extra for some things or book ahead of time. Just check where you want to go and see what you gotta do. It's worth doing your research and seeing if companies like Megabus or Flixbus might be a better option for you whilst travelling throughout Europe. And as we're talking about Megabus and Flixbus, there's coach travel. So I've already spoken about coach holidays, but what about using coaches as an actual mode of transport between countries? Travelling by bus or by coach can be a really cheap option. Like in the UK and throughout Europe, you have Megabus and Flixbus, and they're really cheap. But sometimes travelling by coach can be long. You end up going in and out of cities that you don't even want to see because the place that you want to go is on a route in and out of places. One option is to travel overnight by the bus, so you don't really like realise that you're travelling so much. But I found that sleeping on coaches can be uncomfortable sometimes. Like I've had times where I've got onto a bus at like 2 in the morning and it's been packed, and you've had to try and sleep like upright. Try not to like touch the person next door to you, or like, you know, falling on their shoulder asleep. Or I've managed to get 2 seats and then been able to like lie down because I'm quite small, and it's not a good night's sleep. So if you are going to go that option and travel overnight, just bear in mind you're not going to get much sleep from it. But do take some snacks, take some headphones, and take a blanket. Or what I tend to do is take my dressing gown with me so I can wrap up and stay warm and snug whilst I'm travelling. So it makes a little bit of comfort in not a very nice sleeping situation. But if you're not in it for the comfort and you're just there to travel cheaply throughout places, then coach travel might be an option for you. Backpacking. So with backpacking, usually the point of it is to travel cheap and to find out more about the location that you're visiting. It's not to go on a sort of a jolly booze up suntanning holiday. Usually people who go backpacking want to find out more about the culture of a place. They tend to travel using coach or interrailing or budget airlines. As the name suggests, they tend to travel using a backpack. A lot of backpackers, rather than using the bigger ones, sometimes they use smaller bags so that they can, basically, the less luggage you take, the less you gotta pay. And some of the budget airlines actually charge you for having hold luggage. So some people try and fit it just into a little backpack so they don't have to pay any extra. Most people who backpack don't really make any concrete plans and just tend to sort of go with the flow and see what takes them and see where they end up. A lot of people who've retired go backpacking as well because it's, you know, it's a nice fun thing to do when you've got almost unlimited time. The point of backpacking isn't to live in luxury. You stay in hostels, you meet people, you learn more about the culture. It's more about learning and the experience rather than sort of being surrounded in luxury. Working or volunteering abroad. A lot of backpackers tend to do this as well, either working or volunteering abroad. A lot of countries you can get sort of working visas or working holidays. So you go to a country for a certain amount of time, and rather than having to leave like a normal visa would have you leave after a certain amount of time, you can actually stay there longer, and it gives you permission to work there as well. So essentially it gives you the right to earn money whilst you're there. Do some research on the country that you're planning on going to for long term, and that might be an option for you. Another way of doing it is being a digital nomad, so basically earning money from your computer. One way people do it is basically giving out their services whilst being able to use their computer. Another way is creating passive income streams, so basically making something that earns you money without you having to do much input afterwards. If you are going to go that route though, just make sure that anywhere you go has actually good internet, so you can keep an eye on your income streams and pick up any work when you need to. And in regards to the volunteering and the, you know, more traditional work styles, again, make sure you do your research before you go. You don't want to be stuck in a country that it ends up that the visa that you got is wrong and you can't work when you essentially budgeted to be able to. All of these options obviously have their pros and cons. You know, if you're going to be working whilst you're traveling, that gives you less flexibility to be able to travel where you want, but again gives you income streams, so you're able to sort of sustain yourself away from your home a lot longer. So cruises. The good thing about cruises is that if you want to travel in luxury and you want to see loads of places in quite a short amount of time, then cruising is actually a really good option for you. Essentially, you sit in a boat and it takes you places, usually overnight, and every morning you wake up and you could be in a new place. If cruising is a bit expensive for you, some ferry companies, what you can do is hire a room from them, essentially a cabin. And some ferries don't just go back and forth from one place to another, but they do sort of like round trips. For example, in my gap year when I was 19, I went to Norway, and how that worked was I went on the ferry, I boarded the ferry in Newcastle in England. We did 2 stops in Norway and then came back to Newcastle. So you get to see, whilst they're basically unloading, reloading, we stayed overnight as well, so it wasn't as if it was like quite a quick, you know, you're in, they're unloading, the stuff's coming back on and you're going. We were there for quite a few hours as well, so you get a proper look around the city. Essentially, if cruises are too expensive for you, have a look to see if ferries do that. That could be a good option. The one thing I would recommend though is if you are going to be travelling by ship, is get yourself an outdoor cabin. When I went to Norway, I wanted to go cheap, so I got an indoor cabin and I felt so claustrophobic. I had to spend most of the time that I was on the ship in the communal area, and when you just want to go back to your room, relax, put your pyjamas on, but you know the room's so tiny that you feel like you're sort of suffocating, it makes it hard to relax a little bit more. So even if all you can afford is a little portal, at least you can have a look outside and see where you're going. So that's one thing I would recommend. Do pay extra for a window. So that was 9 ways that you could travel on your next trip. I know that this video isn't all encompassing. There are other ways that you can travel too. If you know of any other way, or tell me your favourite way to travel, let me know in the comments down below. What I'm going to do here as well is I'm going to add some of the videos that I spoke about earlier on. So up here I'll add the video for beginners, so it basically explains what you need to do before you travel and whilst you're travelling, from travel insurance to what to do when you're at security at the airport. And down here I'll put the video for coach holidays. Basically explains the benefit of coach holidays and why they might actually be the best way for you to travel. So I hope you enjoyed. See you again. Enjoy your life. Ta-da!